as you know, we're really big on creating healthy, profitable e-commerce businesses. And a big part of doing that is increasing your revenue in healthy ways. And this is not the kind of growth at all cost mentality, which is usually a fast track to bankruptcy. And increasing your revenue is one of only 3 parts to increasing the value of your e-commerce business. And we have another article where we go deep on how you increase the value of your e-commerce business. There are 3 parts. The first part is revenue. And guess what? There are only 3 ways to increase your revenue. And that's it. Everything falls into those 3 categories. And this is true for actually any business. And if you master these 3 ways, you'll be one step closer to increasing the value of your e-commerce business as well. And so today we're going to go over the only 3 ways to increase the revenue of your e-commerce business. Let's go. All right. So first, you've surely tried hundreds, maybe thousands of tactics and strategies to grow your revenue. You see them all over the place. And the truth is, all of those things fall into one of 3 ways to increase your revenue. And the bottom line is most of those tactics get really unhealthy really fast and lead to negative results. And you see this in companies like Casper Mattress and WeWork, these growth at all costs companies who have these big headlines for revenue growth when profit is actually negative and actually increasing into the negative to where they go bankrupt. So top line revenue often makes the headlines, but it has to be in balance with the other 3 parts to creating a valuable and healthy e-commerce company if it's going to actually increase the health of your company. And so the only 3 ways to grow your e-commerce revenue are very simple. Number 1, increase your prices. Number 2, acquire more customers. And number 3, sell more to existing customers. So we're actually going to go deep into each one right now. All right, so number 1, how can you increase your product prices? So did you know that what you charge for what you sell has actually nothing to do with the product itself? The price that people will pay is completely relative to the perceived value of that product. And we get more into how to leverage value to charge more in other growth articles. But the way that you charge more for anything is by increasing the perceived value of that thing. So how do we do that? Well, before we get into it, I want to mention that the kind of minimum for doing this is actually having a great product that fulfills its promise. So that's kind of an assumption when we get into this. And so let's get into 3 ways that we can increase the price of our product. So number 1, create a real brand. And so we talked a ton about the value of creating a brand and how to do that and how it's not just your logo or your marketing. A big part of creating a real brand is the emotion that someone feels, the trust that you build with a customer, and the authority that you have in the subject matter of your product with those customers. And a brand is a real asset. And we talk about that in other guides, but it's a business asset. In fact, it's really the only real competitive barrier that you have. Building a real brand is the single most important thing you can do to increase the success and the value of your business. And it literally will improve absolutely everything you do. It'll improve your marketing, your conversion rate. It'll allow you to charge more. It'll improve how many products you can sell to customers and the stickiness and the return rate. It improves everything you do. And a big part of that is allowing you to charge more for what you sell versus your competitors. And so we've built brands whose customers gladly pay 10 times more for their products versus the competitors' products. And so that's one of the values of the brand. So the number 1 way to charging more for your product, to increasing your product prices, is by building a brand, a real brand. All right, number 2, create more value. And so we get really deep into how to grow perceived value in other guides, but one of the best ways to increase your prices is through all of the intangible things that increase the perceived value of your product. And so these are things like customer support, things like de-risking the sale, warranties, reviews, and all the trust building elements that we've talked about so many times. This is your authority and your expertise to the customer. And this is your ability to help the customer be successful with the product that they just purchased in their life. It's also the customer just simply liking you and your brand. This comes down to brand voice and, the relationship that you build with your customer, which we talk a lot about. Typically, it's done through post-sale, through email, and those kind of things. But these are some of the ways that you can create more value in your product than just the thing. And that's one way to increase those prices. And this is often done through content and through email. And we'll have links to the guides to get deep on how you can grow more value in your business below. But creating value is the second way to improving and increasing your prices of the products that you sell. All right, the third way is create a value stack. And this is sort of the tangible representation of the value, the perceived value that you're trying to create in your brand. And so we actually talk in depth about the tactics of exactly how to create a value stack in e-commerce for your products. And so we'll link to that. But really what you want to do here is you want to show the value that you've created in your brand and in your products to your customers. And you want to compare that to the result that they actually get through using your product. And really being creative here is the key, because you may think that your product doesn't get the customer any specific result, but that is not true. The customer is always buying your product on their path to trying to achieve some result in their life. And so you knowing that is really critical. And if you don't know that, you should really dig into that through your e-commerce customer avatar and some other things, and we can actually link to resources like that as well. Value is only helpful if it's seen, so we have to show it, and we show it in something called an e-commerce value stack. And a pro tip here is increasing your prices does not actually have to be a bad thing, okay? So if you're at $1 right now and you want to increase to $2 and you think all your customers will be upset at you, that's actually not a bad thing. There's actually something that we call an unsale, unsale, that we like to run when we're about to increase the prices of a product. And we actually go deeper on that in another guide. But essentially, running a sale at your current prices before your prices increase is a great way to actually run a sale and boost prices and let people know about the price increase that's coming. The second way that we can grow our revenue is by acquiring more customers. So how do we acquire more customers without increasing ad spend? So customer acquisition is generally a huge focus and a huge expense inside of e-commerce. And often it's the only focus, which is very unhealthy, because really getting people to buy more, we say the sale is just the starting line, it's not the finish line, is actually where you want to be. But aside from paying for customers by just increasing ad spend, here are 3 ways that you can implement to acquire more customers in an efficient way without just increasing ad spend. Number 1, increase the conversion rate of your e-commerce store and your entire e-commerce customer journey. And so the conversion rate is the tide that rises all ships. And we really go deep into detail on this in other places and other guides and other content that we have. But the best way to do this is by following a proven path for your e-commerce store. And we actually have created that path. It's called the perfect e-commerce site. And if you'd like to get that, we can actually link to that. But that is one of the key ways, is using a proven path to actually increase the conversion rate of that entire e-commerce customer journey. And then knowing what your metrics are and how to judge what's working and what isn't in each step of that journey is really critical to being able to understand how to increase your conversion rate, because it's really the sum of multiple parts. And so being data-driven is really critical there as well. And we can actually link to some articles on how you can become a data-driven company and a data-driven leader. And then if you haven't mapped out your customer journey, you really need to do that, because those are the steps in your conversion path. And if you don't know what they are, then you have to go back and you actually have to understand what they are, and you have to intentionally create that. And so number 1, how to acquire more customers efficiently is increasing the conversion rate of your e-commerce store. Number 2 is retargeting using ad funnels. And so leveraging all of your traffic that hits your site by specifically retargeting and having an efficient flow of traffic that blends the actions that the customers take on your site with the ad channels that you market on, as well as the owned channels that you have like email and SMS. Blending that all together and then getting the customer to come back is really critical in increasing and acquiring more customers in an efficient way, because most people don't buy the first time. I think 90+% of people don't buy the first time. And so you really have to get people and follow up and give them offers over time if you want to really get the most out of the traffic that you're sending. And so number 2 is retarget using ad funnels. Number 3, install a revenue generating e-commerce email system. So we go really deep on e-commerce email in a lot of different places. We even have a guide on how you can build your own revenue generating email system in your e-commerce business. And we can link to that. It's actually on sale at a really, really great price for a limited time. But what you need to do is you need to make sure you're capturing emails before the purchase so that you can follow up if someone doesn't purchase. And then there are critical automations and offers that you should be inserting into that flow after you capture that email and if they don't purchase. And so those are things like abandoned cart flows, which you likely have, but are they optimized is the question. There are things like pre-purchase flows, and there are ways that we want to acquire that email address. But installing a revenue generating email system is the third way to acquiring more customers in an efficient way. Now, the third way to increase the revenue of your e-commerce business, the third and only of the 3 ways, is to sell more to current customers. Now, we talk about lifetime value a lot, and that in e-commerce world, that's called lifetime value. Lifetime value to us is what we call a golden multiplier, a golden metric for e-commerce success. It's a multiplier, and it's the last way to increase the revenue of your e-commerce business. There are many ways to increase the lifetime value, and it's really more of a mindset and a business strategy than it is just a set of tactics. Like, you have to be committed to increasing the lifetime value of your customers, and you have to really build your business around that philosophy. And that's the best brands in the world, the most successful and most profitable ones, have built their entire business around lifetime value. And so we get really deep on lifetime value in other places that we can link to. But here's one tip. Aside from creating a great brand, which we talked about at the top of this little video, which a great brand helps lifetime value tremendously. Aside from that, the best way to increase lifetime value is by creating some sort of continuity program. And this doesn't have to be subscriptions, although that's what people think about as soon as you mention continuity programs, but it can be subscriptions. There are also a lot of other ways that you can create a continuity in your business to sell more to current customers. So here are some ideas. Number 1, consumable products, right? You may be in an area where you have consumable products and there's a natural repurchase that happens. And so being in front of the customer and getting that to them intentionally is a big part of that. Second one is subscription programs. Now, sometimes those go in line with consumable products, but there are also subscription programs that are not consumable. It's worth thinking about, is a subscription program right for your e-commerce business? Now, if it's not, there is something called membership programs, and we actually dig into this concept pretty deep in other places. Membership programs are actually things that are not often used in e-commerce, but it's the idea that someone is part of a club and that gets them a certain level of access and certain special offers and programs and, a certain VIP level in your business, and it unlocks a certain area of your business. So membership programs. And then the last one is having a healthy and growing ecosystem of products. If you listen to us at all, you understand that R&D and product ecosystem and product line is a big part of growing from the survival stage to the health stage and beyond. It's really hard to break through the ceiling without having a growing ecosystem of products. So focusing on R&D and having the ability to create more products that go in line with the mission and the solution that your brand provides is another way to actually dramatically increase lifetime value of your customers. And so you likely see tons of ways to increase revenue all the time, but there are really only these 3 categories that they all fit into. And the key is growing your revenue in healthy ways and not growing it at all costs. And so listen, if you're a 6 to 9 figure brand and you're looking to implement these types of strategies to grow your revenue in healthy and profitable ways, then go to metacake.com and we'd love to help. Thanks, and never stop growing.